Welcome to Group 8's Information World presentation for LIS 510 on homeless youth. We are Caitlin, Catherine, Michael, Scott, and Sarah, and we look forward to sharing our research and insights into this understudied subset of the homeless population. Though this population can experience homelessness with their families, our presentation focuses on the information behavior of unaccompanied minors, which, as this definition illustrates, primarily consists of teens. Unaccompanied minors are often survivors of violence and experience barriers to access critical services due to parental consent or involvement of governmental agencies. As a result of these factors, teens experiencing homelessness do not trust adults or other authority figures and often rely on each other. Further study of this population by IB professionals is critical to understand them on their own terms, facilitate meaningful library services, and enact legal change.
Regarding homelessness broadly, there is a wealth of existing literature that focuses on the intersection of libraries and homeless populations. The ALA Homelessness Toolkit references ways to enact change by suggesting that libraries pay close attention to library services to young people in transition, while creating relevant programming and partnership to support homeless patrons. As a large portion of unaccompanied youth own cell phones but don't have the means to connect with family and friends without the use of public internet and charging outlets, libraries across the U.S. have taken strides to not only offer public internet access, but also offer digitally centered programming that promotes the creativity and connectivity of tech usage in the modern age. Libraries have also started linking up with community organizations to more effectively serve homeless patrons. These community collaborations ensure that library professionals are engaging with youth populations in a sensitive and informed manner while having the proper trauma and sensitivity training to improve their services. Discussing an overlap of library services and homelessness demonstrates the national attention on the homeless population in general, but more consideration needs to be given for the teen population separately, as it's such a critical time for support and resources to prevent homelessness as becoming a chronic life situation. iSchool researchers Wolfer and Hendy confirmed in their 2009 and 2010 studies of the information behavior of homeless youth in Seattle's University District that mobile devices play a significant role in the development of community among this population, and that having a safe place to go during the day to engage was important not only to supporting information literacy, but also general well-being. Further research could be done into the information behavior of unaccompanied homeless youth, especially as digital communication tools continue to evolve.
For our direct fieldwork, we engaged in 4 in-person interviews, 2 email interviews, and 1 survey with librarians, shelter directors, and police officers to get their professional opinions on how the teenage homeless population utilizes information. The information gathered showed us a connection between the information behavior of homeless teens and the way that Chapman describes her experience with female inmates through the life in the round theory. Erin Storms recalls in her interview an experience with a homeless individual where they described being homeless as a full-time job. She elaborates saying, "Figuring out the logistics of food, clothing, cleanliness, and safety is hard work. When I see teens in homeless encampments, they are sometimes embarrassed, and I try to follow their non-verbal and verbal cues. If they want to talk to me, I listen. If they don't make eye contact, I don't pursue." If we consider Chapman's life in the round concept as a baseline for how homeless teens seek out information, we know that they will not seek out aid unless they feel it is critical or that they know that help will be relevant and will be from a trusted source. When asked about how to break down barriers between professionals and individuals, Storm had this to say.
That first 15 minutes, you have to be genuine. Can't pretend to be all enthused about something that you're not. Mm-hmm. But, it's okay to not say anything if that's your other option. Touching people, touching stuff, don't. They don't have any tangible walls, and if people start breaking through the intangible walls, it's really distressing. So don't touch. Insist that they, have the same standard of behavior as everybody else. I don't make excuses for anybody.
Okay.
And my standards are pretty low.
Right.
If you come into the library and you're not setting things on fire, excellent. You win. Here's a star. Here's a Chipotle coupon. I'm glad you're here.
All right.
Because homeless youth often employ avoidance and blunting, there can be a barrier to connecting directly with homeless youth, and connections can be made between libraries and agencies instead. Guffman's face theory comes into play with youth putting on the appearance of being housed and stable as an essential survival tactic, but it can also make youth invisible to agencies which offer support, including libraries. Chapman's information poverty may also be a relevant barrier to providing resources to this population, as homeless teens may consider few to be information insiders as a self-protected measure. Therefore, providing that aid must sometimes be indirect and passive. In a conversation with Natalie Mills, the coordinator at the Youth Resource Center shelter, when asked what is the best thing libraries can offer homeless youth, she responded Wi-Fi and the ability to use their devices. Most of their information comes from peers and often through social media. Facebook is most highly used among the kids she works with, but there's a wide spread of platforms. Even among adults, mobile devices are a valuable information tool. Offer Bianculli at the Worcester Police Department observed,
they do have a community within their community. Say one person has a phone, they'll give messages for each other.
Many respondents to our survey believe that youth were not aware of library services, but they generally are through these peer connections. Advertising on common social media platforms could be an effective way to reach them. The homeless stigma was another large contributing factor, and Natalie suggests youth service librarians have training for trauma-informed care as a solution to this divide.
Unaccompanied homeless youth are a population whose needs may overlap with those of adults experiencing homelessness and with housed teens while remaining quite unique. Statistically, unaccompanied homeless youth are more likely than the adult population to have lost housing because of their sexuality, more likely than adults to be sexually, physically, and/or emotionally abused or exploited while homeless, more likely than their housed teen peers to have experienced trauma, and less likely than homeless adults to self-identify as homeless or ask outsiders for help. Meanwhile, like most other teens, digital engagement through social media accounts, email, and mobile phones is for unaccompanied homeless youth an essential tool in their information behavior. Our research indicates several ways that libraries can apply information services to the information behavior of homeless youth. The most important thing libraries can do to serve homeless youth is to provide a safe, explicitly welcoming environment, regardless of housing status. Although it is tempting to suggest expanding service models of libraries to include homelessness assistance like overnight shelter, showers, and laundry, most public libraries are already under budgetary constraints that make these kinds of expansions untenable. However, as disseminators of information, public and academic libraries must be aware of the local agencies serving the homeless population in their area and be able to describe and explain which services are offered where and to whom. Since shelter rules and access to services without a guardian's approval is a particular challenge for unaccompanied homeless youth, it is essential that libraries be knowledgeable about these rules and have active relationships with the local agencies serving these specific populations. Further, understanding state and federal laws and forming relationships with local school districts, McKinney-Vento education liaisons is important. Ideally, libraries should seek to employ licensed social workers as integrated staff members, but at the very least, all LIS professionals must engage in regular sensitivity and trauma awareness trainings targeted to meeting the concerns of homeless populations. Because youth may not self-identify as homeless or intentionally hide their housing status from outsiders, whenever possible, libraries should utilize passive information sharing methods like posting flyers about available resources in library halls, study areas, and bathrooms. Suggestions for passively meeting the specific needs of homeless patrons, and especially homeless teens, include increased public charging stations for mobile devices, free public telephones for those without mobile devices, unlimited Wi-Fi and computer use, and removing barriers to using the library and obtaining library cards. One technique employed by some libraries is offering internet cards which don't require proof of residence. Rules should be safety-based and sleeping should always be allowed. Some academic libraries have even begun providing nap areas, and public libraries might consider adopting this trend. Providing food at all teen programs, especially during the summer and when school is not in session, will attract all teens and not single out homeless teens, allowing for continued anonymity if desired, while also relieving those experiencing food insecurity. Deeper partnerships with national and local agencies might include registering the library as a safe place site, allowing nonprofit mobile care programs to use library parking lots on a regular schedule, and providing meeting spaces for support groups, activities, and cultural events that focus on the issue of homelessness and highlight the voices of youth, even if not explicitly included in library programming.